The novel that will be explained into depth throughout these slides is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley's dystopian book, Brave New World, was released in 1932 with its frank depictions of sex, drug use, and other weird topics. This book was criticized heavily by society. It was excluded in a number of nations such as Ireland and Australia, and censorship issues arose in the US as well. The book has continued to be widely read and impactful despite the controversy. Furthermore, the book Brave New World is about people's free choice and uniqueness and how it's traded for social stability and productivity in a society where people are genetically produced and trained to follow rigid social hierarchies. The novel examines the perils of living in a world that puts comfort and pleasure above all else, as well as the possible consequences of denying moral principles in the name of technical advancement. Its civilization is governed and manipulated by means of cutting-edge technology. The book Brave New World covers a series of issues within their society that is connected to our reality. The three issues that I found were most relevant to our society was the social inequality, environmental degradation, and consumer culture. The first issue I will talk about is the social inequality that is explained throughout the novel. The novel illustrates a society where social inequality is deeply enforced and the various classes of people are created and constrained to fulfill specific roles and to maintain a stable society. For examples, their society has the upper classes such as alpha and beta classes. These classes enjoy privileges such as access to better jobs, better education, and better living conditions. On the other hand, the lower classes such as gamma, delta, and epsilon are created and conditioned to perform manual labor and other low-status jobs. These classes within society are conditioned to believe that their assigned roles are perfect and desirable and are tricked into not asking questions or challenging the social hierarchy. One example of this can be seen in Chapter 5, page 50, when it states, "But queer that alphas and betas won't make any plants grow more than those last nasty little gammas and deltas and epsilons down there." This quote shows how society defines individuals by their contribution to society and how the social hierarchy is structured to favor the alphas and betas. This type of social inequality can be seen similarly in modern society. The structure of the social hierarchy in the novel shows a class in higher power than the other. This can be related to the favoritism we see in society today with different skin colors of individuals. According to the Pew Research Center article, people of color on average are at least twice as likely as whites to be poor or to be unemployed. This relates back to the social hierarchy of Brave New World because, like the alpha and betas, white people are favored by the system and by society. Another example would be the higher education and higher salary white people receive over people of color. For example, in the article Pew Research Center, it states, among those with a bachelor's degree, Blacks earn significantly less than whites, with people of color earning $82,300 and whites earning $106,600. This relates back to the novel because only the alpha and betas receive a higher education and value, and so do the whites more over than people of color. Moving on to the second issue of environmental degradation that is illustrated throughout the novel. In Brave New World, the environmental degradation was a very serious problem with nature being destroyed and being replaced with technology and consumerism. In the book, nature is seen as a flaw to society rather than a fragile, beautiful place of life that needs to be preserved and protected. One example of this was when they transformed landscapes in order to meet the needs of society, such as forests and rivers being replaced with artificial environments like factories and chemical plants, which allowed the air and water to become polluted and wildlife was destroyed. In Chapter 2 of Brave New World, they explain, a love of nature keeps no factories away, meaning that they prioritize their factories and technology over anything else, even if it means killing the environment in the process. This is related to the environmental degradation that is happening in modern society today. This can be seen through a recent project named the Willow Project. The Willow Project, according to CNN, is a massive and decades-long oil drilling venture on Alaska's North Slope in the National Petroleum Reserve, which is owned by the federal government. This project could lead to an environmental devastation because it would release a ton of planet-warming carbon pollution and impact the ecosystem and climate change. According to Jeremy, an Alaskan-based senior attorney at environmental law group Earth Justice, this is a huge climate threat and inconsistent with this administration's promise to take on the climate crisis. This relates back to the novel because the government is prioritizing the use of fossils and oils over the safety and protection of the environment and animals. Finally, the last issue that is seen throughout the novel is the consumer culture and how it affects individuals and society. The book illustrates a society based on culture consumption where citizens are encouraged to go after pleasure and avoid unwanted emotions through material goods, entertainment, and drugs. One example of this is shown through the character Liana, because she's conditioned to believe that consuming material goods and engaging in sexual intercourse are the key to happiness and fulfillment. For instance, on page 156, she states, "Universal happiness keeps the wheels steadily turning. Truth and beauty can't." Another example found in the book is when it states in chapter 9, Liana felt herself entitled after this day of queerness and horror to a complete and absolute holiday. As soon as they got back to the rest house, she swallowed 6 half-gram tablets of soma, lay down on her bed within 10 minutes, had embarked for lunar eternity. This shows how people in Brave New World only want to be happy and don't care about the truth, but their main goal in life is to achieve happiness, so they consume soma and consume material goods while ignoring the truth to remain happy. This represents how their society cares more about stability more than the actual happiness of the people, because their society uses consumer culture to control the people into thinking they're actually happy when they are not. This relates back to our modern society because most societies today are driven by desire for more and believe that the value of an individual is based on their ability to consume. We live in a culture that promotes disposability and waste by encouraging us to buy more and get rid of what we don't need. For example, according to news article Relevant, it states that in 2014, Americans spent $57.4 billion on Black Friday weekend alone. They gave $103 billion to churches over the course of the whole year. This represents how our society is so involved with the social hierarchy of who consumes more of what, which leads us to prioritize the wrong thing and allows us to ignore the important issues in society. This relates back to Brave New World because they consumed material goods in order to keep happiness, and our modern society uses stuff like ads and other billboards in order to trick people into thinking that they need to buy it, thinking that it'll make them happy in the future. Overall, the first argument the book makes is that societies are built on social conditioning and the repression of individuality are by their very nature unjust, and that the only way to attain true equality and justice is to celebrate individual diversity and reject strict social hierarchies. The second argument it makes is that a society built only on consumption and pleasure is fundamentally unsustainable, and that the pursuit of meaningful experiences and relationships is the only way to find true fulfillment and happiness. The last argument this novel makes is that true progress and prosperity can only be attained through a sustainable and harmonious relationship with the environment. A civilization that is primarily focused on technological advancement and consumerism is essentially unsustainable. Overall, I believe this book has shown us what not to do in order to create our best society.